This is David Obro, one of the most unhinged and psychotic internet users not many people talk about. From violent outbursts, disturbing drawings, threats, and acts of stalking, David has gone down a dark path in which he'll likely never return from. His actions have affected not only his health, but also the well-being of anyone who's ever interacted with him. For everyone's safety, please do not try to contact or befriend David. He's mentally unwell and a threat to society. I've tried to warn others, but he got him. David Obro was born August 18th, 2000 in Burlington, Ontario. He was the son of a black Hebrew Israelite and a Jewish missionary who moved to the country in 1996. David was actually born under the name Moses Kareem Saeed, before later changing it due to his disdain of his heritage. Childhood for David was relatively normal, until an incident that occurred in 2nd grade, which would later change his life for the worse. David recounted this story during an interview on The Fighter and the Kid, hosted by comedian Brendan Schaub. David, during the 2nd grade, was kicked in the balls by another kid who laughed at him afterwards. In a fit of rage, he retaliated by throwing a punch directly at his nose, causing the kid's nose to bleed. This would end in the kid throwing his stapler at the back of David's head, knocking him unconscious. This would mark the start of David's debauchery. The stapler hitting his head caused minor brain damage, and would stick with him for the rest of his life. David would later, throughout the years, get in trouble at school for making multiple disturbing drawings of blood, gore, guts, and beheadings. David's excuse was that he was radicalized on Reddit, and considered himself a Mujahideen member who would liberate the Middle East. In 2012, David would create a Newgrounds account called Super Moses Brony 2000, being a huge fan of the cartoon show My Little Pony. For clarification, David changed his name from Moses to David in 2018, so at this point he still went by Moses. David would post on his Newgrounds account daily, with his MLP fan art and other drawings seeming to always include blood and gore in some way. He would constantly browse sites like LiveLeak and 4chan because of his interest in disturbing media. This would culminate into threats of violence and other disturbing comments made to those who criticized his artwork. He would always lash out at anyone and everyone who would comment on his work, even for the most mild things. David would get into fights near weekly, of course always claiming that he would be the winner, but this is up for debate. Rumors spread in high school that David never washed the one hoodie he wore every single day, causing people to avoid him. While there's no footage of these fights, this recreation has been verified by experts to be a close approximation as to what happened. After high school, David's self-hatred grew even stronger, as he considered himself to be a greasy, swarthy chudcell, so he changed his name from Moses Kareem Saeed to David Obro. Immediately after the name change, David tried to enlist in the Canadian Armed Forces as a pilot, but was turned down because of his severe asthma. This would cause David to go on a huge rant about how much he hated everyone, and how he wished he could live in Ponyville, where they would accept him. Being a pilot was apparently one of his biggest dreams, and getting rejected made him sink deeper into the pit of rage and sadness that he built. This would all culminate into the incident. David loved the website Newgrounds.com. Despite all of these supposed haters he got, he still posted his art there and was a huge fan of the founder, Tom Fulp. Fulp has stated publicly that he resides in the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which in hindsight was not the best idea, because of what's to come. On March 20th, 2023, David decided that he wanted to meet Fulp in person and get a selfie with him, by any means necessary. The night before, he stole the wallet of a random passerby and used the credit card to travel cross-country to Philadelphia. The train ride took hours, and David helped himself to using the stolen credit card as much as he could before he was caught. At around 3 p.m. the following day, David had found Fulp, who was having brunch with his family at a local restaurant. According to the account made by Fulp, David sprinted towards him and screamed, "Tom! Tom!" frightening him and his family. Before Fulp could say anything, David pulled out his phone and begged him to take a selfie with him, claiming that if he didn't, he would not leave. Reluctantly, Fulp took the photo with him, and asked him to leave after meeting his demands. David did not leave. He pestered Fulp about all the trolls and haters he was getting, and demanded he do something about it, yelling at his face and further frightening his family. Fulp threatened to call the police, and David sprinted away to find a place to hide. David later recounted what essentially boils down to stalking his family for hours after the incident, making sure he didn't file a police report. This is where the tale of David Obro comes to an abrupt end though. David tried taking the train back to Canada, but was stopped at the border. He was caught on CCTV stealing the wallet of a passerby, and was swiftly put in cuffs for the robbery. He was deported to Toronto, Canada to face his sentencing. Recently, the mugshot was released of his arrest, and he's currently out on bail awaiting trial after selling his laptop. David is not well known by any means, which is why I wanted to amplify his story and warn others about him. While he may currently be under the confines of the law, knowing his tenacity, he will be back eventually. There is no help for this man. He is a deeply disturbed and tragic individual who should be put down immediately. May God have mercy on any soul that comes into contact with him.